Do you guys just want to go through the questions like we did last time?
Yeah, I think that would be for the best.
All right. So I guess first, I think we should just start with like a quick check-in. How's everyone doing? How's the school year going? Um,
We just had our first day back after the hurricane after 8 days of no school or 8 school days. Not happening. So it's been an interesting adjustment. It's like we
Are
just
y'all
like
okay?
winter break. We're fine. We
Yeah.
got power back. Like we didn't have it for like 5 days, which was annoying, but overall we're quite lucky that we didn't have any damage.
yeah, I second that. We're dealing with the transition back into school after a pretty serious weather event. A few of our students are displaced or had damage to their homes or have had a kind of uncomfortable adjustment to their living situation. So the focus for the rest of this week has just been kind of welcoming them back into the structure of school, uh, getting them back into the routine, just kind of restoring some normalcy in their lives.
That's, for lack of better words, crazy. I would hate to be in that position. And I feel so like empathetic towards that. I hope it gets better for them, honestly, because I know that's just so drastic of a change for them.
I know, me too. And it's hard because it's like, oh, like we missed 8 school days, so we gotta like pick it up. But then it's like hard to pick up the pace, like knowing that they're suffering. They
Yeah.
like need more grace during this time.
Finding that balance between being like welcoming and trying to give them a space to breathe and like be able to smile and see their friends and like feel like a person again while also being like, yeah, we have even less time to cover content now. And we need to hit the ground running. Finding that happy medium is the challenge of the week.
Yeah, good luck with that. I'll be praying for y'all. If y'all have any questions or need any support, I mean, I'll try my best to help y'all from here.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
And then on my end, we're doing pretty well. We just finished fall break. It's pretty hectic. We did the ACT today, but overall, outside of like child drama, we're pretty good on this end.
All right, glad that y'all were okay and actually, with the storm. And I do hope things do get better for the students. I know those situations can always be tough and tricky. I'll speak from here in North Carolina. Of course, we got a little bit of the weather and stuff. It did result in us missing a school day. And so now we're kind of fighting to get back on track. And we did the PSAT last week. We have the pre-ACT next week. And our school's implementing something new. So they're giving each team planning days. And so unfortunately, my team is the first one to get a planning day, but it also happens 2 days before our end of unit test. And so it's really awkward. And we have projects to do and all of that stuff. Like we've planned a lot. And Tuesday night, we kind of got a sudden change. So just kind of a lot of adjustments and new things that they're experimenting. And, kind of like guinea pigs this year. But overall, things are okay.
Are you anywhere like near Asheville or anything? Or was like the past Hurricane Helene, like, did that not really affect you?
So Hurricane Helene just was very bad, like rain and stuff like that. I'm not too close to Asheville. I'll say about 2.5 hours or so. So I teach in Greensboro, and I'm originally from Charlotte. So it's about 2.5, 3 hours from us. Our schools have definitely been doing like a lot of drives, and a lot of the staff or just people have either family members or college students. There's even a person on our staff. I believe his son went to App State, and luckily he was able to evacuate beforehand. But even on my way from Greensboro to Charlotte, on I-40, there are many signs that already say it's closed off to Tennessee and different parts like that. One of my coworkers, her mom and family I think they stay like in Stanley, so a little bit kind of the rural parts near Asheville. And she was like they were turning the water off and on, and they were thinking they would maybe even have to come up this way just to actually have consistent water and consistent power. So I know they're working on a plan for them and what schooling is going to look like, but I think the highway isn't going to be fixed until around January or something like that. Like it's some really serious repairs that have to be taken care of.
I really admire your willingness to just kind of go with the flow, and be adaptable. That's a skill I'm cultivating. So I admire that you're able to use that in such a trying time.
Oh, thank you. It's definitely something I'm working on acquiring too. So like a lot of our staff, we've kind of been checking in on each other just because the start of the school year is seemingly a little bit different than what it has been in the past. And our admin is kind of doing an overhaul of different initiatives and things. And so when we check in with each other, I'm like, my song for the year is just going to be just keep swimming and going with whatever life throws with us, the school or the students throw with us. But maybe try it out.
All right, do we want to get into that first question, our kind of mantras about our vision for family engagement?
Sure.
Uh, I'm happy to start us off with that one. So I guess my vision for family engagement is, in simplest terms, a unified front. I want the parents or guardians or whoever the kids are living with, the students and the teacher to all be on the same page regarding expectations for behavior and academics, uh, be on the same page about deadlines, be on the same page about curricular goals and the students' individual goals, whether that's linked to an IEP or just something that the student values and thinks is important. And also how the student can have the most beneficial relationship with their learning environment. We don't see the students for a majority of their day, and there's things that the parents or guardians, maybe that's grandma and grandpa, maybe that's an aunt and uncle, maybe that's a godparent, whoever that might be, know about the kid and know about where they thrive that they can share with us. So I think having that unified front where everybody's on the same page, everybody understands the same message, that's my ideal. Oh, and I'd like, especially because I'm teaching 11th graders mostly, I would like a lot of the responsibility and accountability to fall on the student in as many circumstances as I can. Obviously, some of them need additional support in maybe self-advocacy or organization or discipline stuff or attendance, but overall, I would like them to be the one who's doing most of the lifting. And me and then their guardians just kind of being there to support when they do slip.
Yeah, I agree. I think just problem solving as partners, that's a word, partners, versus like clients is a word that I noticed like coming up a lot in the readings. Um, and something I'm definitely guilty of. I think part of it's just being young, and I think being my first year is having imposter syndrome a bit. So almost feeling like parents are people who I need to like clients that I need to appease versus like people who I can just work with because we do generally ultimately have the same goal.
I agree with that completely. Literally just retweet. At first, like last year was my first year, and I was kind of honestly scared of the parents because I was like, there's this barrier, and I was like, what do I do? And just like start low-key hyperventilating. But this being my second year, I've come to realize like we're there to work together, especially when we're in those IEP meetings and stuff. Like we're literally partners we have one common goal. So looking at it that way helped me a lot.
I'll definitely say for me, my kind of mantra is just meeting people where they're at. And so I know oftentimes we can walk in having our own expectations of, what we want parent engagement to look like, what we want student performance to look like. But I think the main thing for me is meeting them where they're at and, just trying to have a general working framework of what communication will look like. So, of course, emailing, reaching out, connecting with counselors or the wraparound team, whatever resources that student may need, but also tying in their own personal experience and just where they may be at in their academic journey. I know I have some students who are unfortunately about to turn 18 but have enough credits to be considered a freshman and stuff like that. And so sometimes it can be difficult to apply that same exact, just rule plan and foundation to that specific student because they've actually had more experience in school opposed to those students that are coming in freshmen, true freshmen being in ninth grade. And I did notice that in the readings that, kind of being partners and working from that framework has always been helpful. I try to, well, I'll say I'm trying to, in my classroom, get more engagement going on where the students are eventually going to lead my class. And so trying to eventually get into a more like facilitative framework where students feel confident, they feel like they have a voice in the classroom, and regardless of their story and whatever they're bringing to the table, we're all equal parties. At least for these 50 minutes, I can't speak for whatever goes on in everybody else's class. But that's kind of like the framework and mantra that I try to work with.
Um,
I can get us started with the next question.
Sounds good.
So after reviewing the resources, what are 1 to 2 of your most significant goals for family engagement? Why did you select these goals? Does anyone want to start?
I can start. So one, probably the biggest, I have a lot. But one for me is definitely learning how to effectively engage with parents who don't speak English. Because I have many parents who don't, that I've met at open house and stuff. And just like figuring out how to bridge that gap. Because even like using like Google Translate in the moment, there's still like it works, but there's still like an awkwardness to it. So yeah, that's like the main one. And then also just engaging in a manner that's more self-aware, because I had a lot of intrinsic motivation in high school. My parents and teachers, I don't think ever interacted ever. So having that expectation to interact with parents regularly is definitely like something that I'm adjusting to just because when I was in school, it wasn't the case for me. Um, so being more self-aware and reflective about how just because I behaved a certain way does not mean that's the case. Definitely doesn't mean it's the case for most students.
Um, one of those I also share about communicating with non-English speaking parents. Like Olivia said, Google Translate is kind of a half measure. I think trying to rely on that is an oversimplification of the complexity and diversity of the way that the Spanish language is used, at least like in the communities that we're dealing with. That's kind of the dominant language barrier is English to Spanish. There's so many nuances in the different dialects and stuff, and we're getting kids whose families come from all over Latin America and they speak Spanish in different ways and stuff. And so using a computer software that can only translate to like the Queen's formal Spanish sometimes isn't the most effective way to get a message across to parents. Um, Another goal that I have that's big with family engagement is to do more communication that is positive, more communication about student achievement, because I feel like a lot of the time when I am talking with families, it's about misbehavior and a discipline issue. And it's more because I have an obligation to have like document when I'm talking to parents for the kids who are in trouble every day, who are having a lot of issues with those soft skills like coming to class on time, staying sober at school, keeping their hands to themselves, that kind of thing. I'd like to be able to have at least 50% of my family engagement be talking about positive moments, be talking about growth, be talking to those parents of the kids who are doing super well in class who might not always hear about how awesome their kid is doing. And for the parents of kids who I do have to talk to a lot about behavior stuff, talking about those moments of growth, talking about, oh, this week, he's actually been taking notes in class and turning in stuff on time and asking for help rather than just kind of doing whatever he feels like.
I completely agree with you guys, especially on the bilingual family part. I'm an ESL teacher, and that is still hard for me. One thing to make it less robotic, try using SpanishDict.com for translations. I'll send you guys the link.
Thank you.
That will use like more talking Spanish than like robot Spanish, Queen's English Spanish type. Um, and then I also agree with the reach out with positivity rather than negativity. These are the parents that are always getting reached out with, like, hey, your kid's a problem every single day type. So something that we've implemented in our district is to, instead of reach out with the issue, reach out with something great that they've been doing, and then be like, they've been doing this really, really well. However, we are still lacking in this area. Could you talk to them about it? And that's something I think is really, really cool. Also, something I'm like wanting to grow in is just keeping the parents in the loop because their kids won't do it. And we all know they won't keep them in the loop. Like, so I'm thinking about starting like a family newsletter email blast like every week or every month, just with updates on the big things that we're going to start doing.
All of you guys had such a great ideas. What's interesting is a lot of that is that something I've been trying to do in my classroom. So I haven't gotten to the parent component yet, but I had a student return this week, and the last time I had seen him was probably September when he randomly stormed out of the class. And so there are a couple things in his file that, just show that he's experienced a couple things at home, displacement and all of that stuff. And he came back into class yesterday. Well, actually, I think Monday, and he didn't really do too much. So I was like, okay, maybe he's just going to be on the same, wave that he had been doing, just coming to class, sitting in there, taking a nap, something like that. Because he has my class at the end of the day. And he actually, on Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever day it was, I can't remember the days right now. We're doing DNA and biology and talking about genetics and all this stuff. And he literally had the most examples. He had missed the entire unit. We're testing on this unit next Wednesday. And he literally came in and had all these real world examples, had so much information. And I was like, okay, like you are doing good work. Like I'm proud of you for jumping in and providing these examples. And I know specifically in that class, sometimes people's good performance can often get overshadowed by some of the other kids that are, just a little bit more of distractions in the classroom. So I'm definitely trying to at least give students some more praise when I see them inside of the classroom, and just making sure, of course, you can easily grade on Canvas or, whatever y'all's online system is. But trying to definitely leave comments on their work is something that's important to me, not just a great job, but this is the part of the project I really like. This is where, you're succeeding in, and let's talk about it. And then also to Tala's point, our our kind of schools thing with parent contact is definitely do a compliment sandwich, especially if it's your first time reaching out. Say, hey, great student, always they're a joy to talk to. This is, the area that we're kind of having, but overall, this is, they're succeeding and stuff like that. That's been beneficial. I think a goal of mine is a little bit similar to yours, as well as trying to figure out a way to routinely update all parents, and then also trying to figure out what's going to be my personal schedule for reaching out to those that may need a little bit of support, because it's easy to reach out when they have a referral, or easy to reach out when there's some huge incidents. But I think those are the type of children that actually do need some type of routine update, whether it's bi-weekly. So I feel like weekly would put a lot on my plate. But if it was bi-weekly or something that me and that parent agreed to, it might actually be successful in kind of bringing them back into the school community, because I know a couple of parents, some of my students have told me like, oh, my parent has a school number block. Because every time they call, it's about something crazy. It's about a referral. It's just about something negative. And those are actually the students who may actually need that extra push. Or if we have at least one conversation with their parent, they can change some of the things that they're doing at home and eventually create healthier habits in the classroom.
Yeah, I love that. And I was gonna make a kind of similar comment. Yeah, if the parent is only hearing negative stuff, like you said, and they end up having the school's number blocked because they're only hearing about referrals, only hearing about discipline, only hearing about these crazy instances that make them feel like their kid is out of control. That's not creating that unified front. That's not you aren't partners then. It's they feel like I don't know, you're like against them and that you're judging them maybe. So yeah, tuning out. Making sure that you're on the same page is important. And if your communication is only about negative stuff, that's gonna hurt that communication, hurt that unified front. And that's ultimately gonna have a negative effect on the student.
I like the newsletter idea too, because I feel like, I don't know, what was I gonna say? Now that like homework isn't really a thing that we give anymore, I feel like there's like less opportunities. Like I don't like when you bring homework home, you can be like, oh, like mom, dad, whoever, like help me with this. And then they like clearly see what you're doing and they're like engaged with you, like their kid in that way. So I feel like without homework, the newsletters are like a good way to address not having that happen at home anymore.
I agree. And then honestly, if not a newsletter, then a Remind 101 account if the parents are willing to sign up for that.
Remind 101 is always good. I know elementary school is like pleasure, which is always so fun. But definitely implementing something like that, I think. And I know my specifically, we've actually been bringing back projects and not like online projects, actually like build a 3D model. So last year they built 3D cell models. And so this year, well, actually next week, they'll be turning in their 3D DNA models and things. And so it's been really beneficial because we had a like parent engagement nights last week. And so a lot of them were like, oh, I heard about the project. And I'm like, okay, I'm glad that you heard about the project. I'm glad that they actually mentioned it instead of, just kind of coasting through and then, suddenly there's a project due. And so trying to bring back some of those old school, quote unquote old school items has been helpful with catching some of the people that'll just go home and say, oh yeah, I learned something. They actually may have homework or may have to finish up something and then they're not getting engaged because the parent is often seeing them on their Chromebooks, which are, of course, a blessing and a curse when you want to have technology in the classroom, but it does take out some of that tangibility with education overall. So I know my school is prioritizing it. North Carolina has new standards for the science department, and I think of a couple of other big teams got new standards. And their push is a lot of social emotional learning skills, but also including more application. And so it's been really helpful in allowing us to develop, at least, if not even direct parent communication, at least communication via the assignment. Your student in a lab and slowly pulling them our classroom, even if it's that day, this is the thing.
Simone, you're cutting out a little bit.
Now, maybe.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. To my final destination where I should have such a stronger signal and things like that.
Oh, it's okay. I just wanted to warn you because I felt bad that we were missing some of what you were saying.
Agreed. Uh,
I feel like these are all really valuable things that we can take into the family engagement plan. And the projects are really great too, because as teachers, I mean, we're so busy. So when you have to do stuff at home, I don't know, I just feel like it really helps to bridge that gap.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned the projects, because in my ACE general paper classes, I've been making my kids do a lot of group projects because related to kind of some of the different research skills and structuring skills and literacy skills that they need to be practicing to do well on those two sections of the exam. And I was not really expecting any of the parents to know about it, because I haven't started doing a newsletter or news blast type of thing, even though I probably should be. Um, and that I kind of am under the impression that a lot of my students will just give their parents a broad strokes summary of how they're doing at school that is not always accurate, and the parents just kind of take it at face value, and because they're busy with supporting their families and making sure that they have a place to eat and sleep and like be a family together, that they don't really second guess it. But then we had parent teacher night a couple weeks ago, and all the parents that I talked to all wanted to know about the project. That was all they were talking about. They were like, "Oh, my daughter says that so and so wasn't doing his work in her group in the project, and is she going to get extra credit?" Or, "Oh, my daughter is talking about the Watergate scandal and the Kennedy assassination at home, and I don't even know how she knows about this stuff." Because I was like young when those things happened, or I wasn't even born when those things happened. Um, so I thought this was an English class, like what's going on here? Um, so yeah, those have been unintentionally a good way to kind of bring parents in, even if it wasn't always academic related. It was child drama, to use one of Tala's phrases from earlier.
Oh, also, Olivia, I just randomly thought about the point you made. You were talking about like not bringing in your past experiences and stuff like that, like how parent communication like wasn't really like a thing for you and your parents, you know. And I feel like I had a similar experience too, because I had those intrinsic motivations to perform well, and my parents are like, "You need to go to school and perform well." That was the expectation that was set forth. And I do think, you know, with newer generations of parents, things often change. And, you know, a lot of the parents have been through a whole bunch of things themselves, and some of them haven't had the most pleasant just school experiences. And so some of them have taken on kind of maybe a nonchalant attitude towards the education system, especially I've learned in Greensboro specifically, a lot of their children are going to the same exact schools that they went to, and there's even teachers that have been there. We have a staff member at my school. He's the same age as the school, and the school was built in the 60s. And he's been there for like 15 or 20 years. Even one of the assistant principals, she's actually a graduate of the school. She left for a couple of years and have come back. And so it's a good and a bad thing. I think it's great to, you know, just have that familial connection of the school. But I do know if your family member has experienced something traumatic at this place, or just a not so good experience, who knows what they've told the youth, like, okay, expect this out of that, expect that out of that. When the kids that are going to school now, they're a whole different generation and have experienced so much more different things and have had a lot of heightened exposures to a lot of what people would consider adult things at such a young age. So I wonder how that has an impact on how we operate as teachers and how we interact with them, especially because I feel like most of us are, you know, in our young 20s. And so we're dealing with parents possibly in their 30s to 40s. And so their school experience, while they're a little bit removed, we're less removed from them. And so we can relate to both parties because we're in school and that overlaps. So I wonder how that is. I know for me, sometimes it's awkward. Like parent teacher night, it's always fun, and like the parents always like, apparently have a good time with me. I don't know, but I'm like, this is kind of awkward because I'm 20 something talking to you, you're like 45, 50. Your kid maybe like about 10 years younger than me. And you know what I'm saying? Like all of these different dynamics are intertwining. But definitely your point about your experience and what that looks like for you is hard to kind of not try to compare, especially when you want to inform the kids of what your experience was like in school, but you don't want to put those expectations on them. It's so tricky, so tricky.
Um, I thought we could maybe briefly talk about the second to last question, which is asking about context of the school environments. And we've kind of touched on this already because I think that there's some overlap um, with all the schools that we're teaching at a little bit. But are there any, I don't know, things about the community that you're serving in or the culture of your school or the kind of backgrounds of students that you're dealing with, their demographics that you're dealing with that you feel like is important for providing a broader context for the goals that you've described during this time?
Oh, and then quick aside, we have 6 minutes left before Zoom kicks us off.
I'll speak directly for my school's environment. So our school kind of sits on the border between two different, I guess you can say parts of town. Um, so you have children with a little bit higher socioeconomic status living a little bit closer to the lake. And then you have another set of students who many of them live in like subsidized government funded communities and things. And so sometimes there is a stark contrast in the amount of student engagement as far as them being engaged in class and just them engaging in our school community. And then when it translates to parent involvement like PTSA or just coming out to those parent nights or community fairs, oftentimes we see one group or the other. And it's very seldom that we see a large mix of that population, um, a large mix of the entire population, with the exception of kind of like our back to school open house, find your schedule night, and then of course at the end graduation, and even in student events like prom or student government association, the planning of our homecoming week, and a whole bunch of other different things. You can see some of the divisiveness that is simply based on where they live actually transcend into just smaller school communities.
I think that's a great observation, and I commend you for being able to see that stark difference. Sorry, y'all. I think that's I lost my train of thought. I'm out. Sorry.
You're good. Guess important thing, and I think this is, I'm kind of speaking for Olivia and I here, maybe a bit of context. I think we've touched on this before in some of our other meetings, but both of us teach a lot, a lot, a lot of students. We both have around 200 students.
In one planning period.
One planning period that is usually taken up by a meeting with another teacher or going to get resources or doing a training or sending emails about things that have happened the whole day. So time management is a big thing. A big pressure for us, and I think can sometimes be a barrier to more effective engagement with families.
A barrier towards prioritizing it, because when there's like a laundry list of things to do, or like when I don't even have tomorrow's lesson planned, it's like hard to make that the first thing on my list.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely understandable. I'm looking at the last question here since I know we're kind of running out on time.
Yep.
Do we want to do like a 10-month plan or a 12-month plan? And then I guess if we do them, do we kind of want to divide it up like quarter 1, quarter 2, 3, and 4, possibly.
I think a
I'm
10
down for
month.
doing quarters
um,
if we can do the 10-month one.
Yeah,
Yeah, I feel like if we were elementary, maybe it would make sense to have more communication over the summer, but
Right.
high school, I don't know.
Yeah.
In terms of planning, I was thinking I can make us a template, one for each school month. Do y'all start in August or September?
August.
August.
Okay, perfect. So I'll start it with August, finish it in May. We can divide it up over messages. And then I'll
Okay.
just make it to where we have a box for each goal. And then we can
Okay.
write a little description under each goal and how we want it to affect the family engagement long term.
That's perfect. Thank you,
Perfect.
Tala.
Love that. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Starting
Uh,
off with some structure will be really good.
Cool.
I will make us a Google Doc and I will work on the template within the next hour and hopefully I can send it out to everybody. Is this due this Sunday or next Sunday?
Next Sunday.
I think it's next
Oh, we have
Sunday.
time.
Yeah.
But I'll do my
Yeah.
best to finish this within the next hour and then we can finish up over text.
Yeah, we can sort out the
Definitely.
in the group chat. And yeah, I think the sooner we can get this started, the sooner we'll be able to deal with any potential barriers or roadblocks that kind of emerge, and sort them out so that we've got this submitted, dealt with,
Yeah,
all our T's crossed and I's dotted, before Sunday or before next Sunday.
that sounds perfect. And then we need a reference page, right?
I think
I assume.
so. I'm
Pretty
looking
sure,
at it
yeah.
right
Okay, perfect. Well, I will get started on that and I will send it to our JHU emails then.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Thank
First,
you.
see y'all.
All right, peace out. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Great talk.
Bye.